Johnny Carson utterly hated Jay Leno. Now we know why Johnny Carson defined American late-night television. His sly smile, razor timing, and effortless charm helped millions wind down their day in his company. When he announced his retirement, in 1992, the question of who would inherit television's most coveted chair became the industry's biggest succession drama. The public saw NBC hand the reins to Jay Leno, then watched David Letterman bolt to CBS in frustration. What most people didn't see was the depth of Carson's private resentment toward the man who would sit at his old desk. Johnny was unfailingly diplomatic in public, recalled one former NBC executive who worked with him in those final years. That Midwestern reserve served him well. Behind closed doors, though, with only trusted colleagues present, his feelings about Leno were unmistakable. Carson viewed the outcome not only as a bad call for the show he'd built, but as a personal betrayal by the network that had earned billions on his back. He kept things cordial on camera, but insiders say the contempt was real, and he expressed it through pointed, meaningful actions rather than angry statements. Across his retirement, Carson waged a quiet, principled rebellion against Leno's Tonight Show, subtle gestures that said everything without him having to. Below are the 5 core reasons behind Carson's disdain, a mix of professional judgment, personal values, and loyalty to the institution he created. But first comes the foundational wound. How NBC's choice to install Leno against Carson's wishes created a rift that never healed and set the tone for one of Hollywood's most consequential behind-the-scenes feuds when Carson announced he was stepping down. He wasn't just vacating a job. He was leaving an American institution in need of a steward. After 30 years at the helm, his opinion about a successor mattered enormously. So NBC's decision to ignore his preferred choice stunned those who knew the inside story. Johnny wanted David Letterman to inherit The Tonight Show, said a senior NBC figure involved in the talks. This wasn't a casual opinion. It was a clear directive from the man who built the franchise. Carson believed Letterman had the essential late-night DNA, the skewed, irreverent intelligence, the same wry Midwestern sensibility, the rare ability to balance sophistication and approachability night after night. Since 1982, Letterman had followed Carson on NBC's schedule, an arrangement many viewed as an informal apprenticeship. Johnny saw Dave as the natural heir, said a longtime Tonight Show producer. He understood the alchemy that keeps a daily show fresh and smart without talking down to people. NBC, however, read the landscape differently. Executives worried about Letterman's prickly, idiosyncratic style and bet on Leno's broader, more commercial appeal. It came down to a brutal calculus. Carson's artistic judgment versus rating security and advertising revenue, said a network insider. The business side won. Johnny never forgave it. For Carson, it confirmed an ugly truth. After 3 decades of loyalty and dominance, his judgment still ranked below corporate caution. He quietly cut Leno off. No fireworks, no confrontation. That wasn't his way. He simply withdrew. Messages went unanswered. Attempts to build a mentor relationship fizzled. The door stayed closed. What stung most was the contrast with the difference NBC had shown him for years, only to overwrite him at the moment that mattered most. In Carson's mind, Leno benefited from that institutional betrayal and thus became inseparable from it. Beyond the final decision, Carson was appalled by how Leno's team played the game. Leno's manager, Helen Kushnick, was infamous for her cutthroat tactics, said an NBC executive who watched the battle up close. She lobbied aggressively, leaked strategically, and maneuvered relentlessly to make Leno seem inevitable while undermining Letterman. Carson loathed that style. He had advanced by letting the work speak for itself, not through pressure campaigns and media manipulation. Kushnick reportedly threatened that Leno would leave NBC if he didn't get The Tonight Show while planting negative stories about Letterman's temperament. It was effective, noted a veteran talent manager, but a lot of people found it ugly. While Leno publicly kept his distance from the rougher edges, Carson felt the buck stopped with the star. "You're responsible for the people who represent you," he told friends. Benefiting from a hardball strategy while claiming plausible, deniability in Carson's view reflected a deficit of integrity. The tone didn't improve once Leno took over. As executive producer, Kushnick reportedly instituted a blacklist against guests who appeared on competing late-night shows, a policy so controversial she was fired months into Leno's tenure. Even after she was gone, the damage to Carson's perception was permanent. To him, the throne hadn't been earned in the right way. The institution he'd protected for 30 years suddenly operated by a different code, and he wanted no part of it. Beyond politics, Carson had deep artistic reservations about Leno's approach. "Johnny's comedy was wit, rhythm, and grace," said a former Tonight Show writer. He elevated the monologue, clean setup, elegant turn. The line you didn't see coming, but felt perfect once you heard it. Leno's style was intentionally broader. Headline gags, quick observational jokes, immediate connection. It worked for mass appeal, but to Carson it felt thinner. "Johnny thought Letterman pushed the form," said a producer who stayed in touch with Carson. "Dave invented formats, took risks, and delivered a distinct comedic worldview. Jay and Johnny's mind played it safe and aimed wide. Carson also cared about comedic voice." Johnny once said Dave made him laugh because he was surprised, while Jay made him nod because he agreed. Remembered a late-night writer. To Carson, great comedy occasionally unsettles. It challenges the room. He felt Leno prioritized approval over originality. That wasn't merely taste. It was a verdict on who deserved the crown. Carson never went on a talk show tirade. He didn't need to. His actions said everything. After retirement, he quietly sent monologue jokes to Letterman, not to Leno. For the man who perfected the late-night monologue, that was a thunderclap. He was literally arming Leno's rival with Carson-crafted lines. The public learned of it only when Letterman revealed the arrangement during his 2005 on-air tribute after Carson's death. In an instant, the narrative shifted. Whatever NBC had decided officially, Carson had chosen his heir. Then came the clearest gesture of all. Carson's only post-retirement late-night appearance was on Letterman's CBS show, not on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. For someone as image-conscious and discreet as Carson, that single booking was a statement carved in granite. He preserved his dignity, avoided public insults, and still made his point unmistakable. In the small world of television, everyone got it. "Johnny never had to say he disapproved," said a longtime associate. "He showed it where he sent his jokes, where he showed up. Where he didn't, that was the message." Underneath the business and the art lay something more intimate: values. Above all, Carson prized loyalty, not as a talking point but as a core principle. The Leno succession struck him as disloyal on two fronts: NBC to Carson and Leno to the unwritten ethics among comedians. Carson had navigated plenty of network squalls, but he did it while preserving a code: discretion, gratitude, fair dealing. He felt Leno accepted and benefited from methods that violated that code. What hardened disappointment into contempt was Carson's belief that the battle had revealed character, NBC's and Leno's. After 30 years building The Tonight Show into television's most prestigious franchise, Carson believed his final professional request should have been honored as a matter of respect. When it wasn't, he took it personally and permanently. This is why the animosity never softened with time. Carson could forgive honest creative differences. He could live with fair competition. What he could not forgive was winning through tactics. He considered underhanded or prospering from the betrayal of a loyal relationship. In his quiet, steadfast way, he drew a line and never stepped back over it. Carson's deep resentment of Leno offers a rare look behind the immaculate public mask of television's most private star. For 30 years, viewers saw an unflappable host floating above the fray. That's why his silent, unmistakable repudiation of Leno, sending jokes to Letterman, Appearing only on Letterman's show, never returning to The Tonight Show under Leno, landed like a gavel strike. It was the final exercise of Carson's impeccable timing, letting silence do the talking. In the end, Carson's feelings reveal what he valued most: loyalty in relationships, dignity in public conduct, integrity in comedy, and respect for institutions and mentorship. He believed NBC violated those values and that Leno benefited from the violation. No surge in ratings, no advertiser love, no public approval could erase that for him.